Can I ask you again to move a little closer? Temple room is so big. Okay, that's better. So tonight we will have the second part of our little seminar on the Greek. So yesterday we were establishing, how man and woman have very different natures, qualities, because they're meant to play different roles. So I'm not going to repeat it. Or who of you was here yesterday? Not so many. So all the ladies missed out on the topic of how to please a husband yesterday. So you're only coming to how to please, satisfy the wife, is it? Anyway, yeah, I think it was not even recorded or broadcast yesterday, so, but it's all in the books there, So in any case, yesterday we were establishing that a main difference between man's nature and woman's nature is that we women have a more emotional nature. And that is there so that we want to have children because somebody has to play that role. And if it wasn't for the emotional nature, which woman would want to go through all those austerities of being pregnant for 9 months and giving birth and then taking care of a child? So if we didn't have that emotional nature, we would not really feel inspired to play this role. So that's why Krishna gives us this emotional nature, so that somebody wants to play the role. In the same way how I can't remember whether we said this yesterday or not, maybe not. One, spiritual, material, emotional. What do you think? Emotional was a good guess. Because most people spontaneously say the spiritual. We always think, spiritual is so important. Of course, the spiritual shelter would also be good if it's there. But out of the three, the emotional one is indeed the most important one. Because the spiritual shelter we can get from so many sides, especially in the modern days now, YouTube, internet, we have so much access to inspiring lectures and all our other relationships from these emotional needs. So, those have to be satisfied within family life. There's no other source, really, main source. Of course, also the ladies amongst each other, they can give each other emotional support. But still, the more we can find this fulfillment within marriage, then that frees all the other relationships from these emotional needs and therefore keeps them more pure. For example, especially in the Western world, it is a well-known fact amongst sannyasi gurus that very often unmarried ladies who don't have that emotional fulfillment and satisfaction, very easily this comes out in their relationship with their guru, and they expect this emotional satisfaction coming from the guru. And sometimes I have heard sannyasis making these jokes, how they feel like a substitute for a husband of their unmarried disciples. And they say, thank God, now all my disciples are married. That relieves me a little bit. Because it's just like that. When these unfulfilled needs are there, they enter other relationships. It just comes out in a subtle way. It's the same for men too. If men are not married, I can sometimes also detect this, that, oh, yes, this people really needs a wife. I can feel that energy, that neediness, right? But that should not be, because, it does, in one sense, contaminate other relationships if that emotional neediness comes out, you see. So that's why, yes, this emotional care is very important, that a husband understands what it means to give emotional care and support to a woman. And this is not always easy for men. So emotional care means to care for the mind, because emotions take place on the level of the mind. So to care for the mind and keep it satisfied and cheerful and happy. That's basically what it means to give emotional support. And this is even more important now in these modern days, where most families live in a rather nuclear family. All right, still the tradition is there that the in-laws are there, the parents of the husband are there. But in former times, there were so many more personalities being part of a family. I have seen this in Bangladesh, cousins, aunties, sisters, and they all live together, in a big house, each family in one room type thing. So, and then there is so much more interaction and relationships, because women need relationships. For ladies, the main satisfaction comes from relationships. And again, that's built in. So she is the caregiver and the relationship manager there, right? So that's why it's built into the woman's nature that she wants the relationships, because that's the role she's meant to play, And yesterday we were giving the example of former times people had 10, 15 children. So my God, so many relationships there and so much to care for and so unless women would, if a woman would not have that nature of being satisfied through relationships, she obviously would be not such a good mother and caregiver, right? And men, their main satisfaction comes from their achievements, which is also, again, built into the man's nature, because he's the one who is meant to make the achievements, and move things forward, and. So Krishna's system is perfect, But yes, we are, in these modern days, we are getting further and further away from Krishna's system, and it's all a little mixed and upside down. And, well, we do get reactions for this. We actually can say all our social problems in the world, inside ISKCON, outside ISKCON, they're global reactions for not following Krishna's system. Or there's divorce and single motherhood and violence towards women and neglect of children and. So these are all reactions for not following Krishna's system. In Krishna's system, these things don't have a place. They don't exist, But because things are getting more and more upside down and people are moving more and more away from Krishna's system, so society has more and more disturbances, and we can say this is almost a bit of a disease of the modern days, that we like Krishna, but we don't always like his system. And we think our modern system is so much better, and Krishna's system is old-fashioned, outdated, not valid anymore, But now, Krishna's system is valid at all times and places and circumstances. So yesterday I was mentioning there is this book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And this is a very good book to read because it gives really insights how men and women are just so different, like as if they're from different planets, speaking different languages, and therefore there are always these misunderstandings. So, and he also makes this point, this author, John Gray is his name, he makes this point that we need to be heard and understood. And this is often very difficult for men, you know, to hear her and understand and be empathic, you know. And for men, when a woman wants to share her worries and anxieties and pains or whatever, then usually a man feels it's his fault. Even though she doesn't even want to say that. She just wants to share what is bothering her, but intuitively he knows that he's meant to make her happy. So if she's not happy, he feels, oh, it's my fault. So many men get very irritated when a woman, you know, shares her worries and unhappiness, you know. But a man has to understand that he has to simply listen to her and try and understand her and give her some emotional support. So men usually tend to give the solutions. They like to be the Mr. Fix-It, you know? So and he offers the solutions. But women don't want solutions. Please understand this. That women don't want solutions because when he offers the solution, then she feels not understood and he doesn't care for her, you know? Although his way of caring is that he offers the solution, but she simply wants to be heard and understood. So all a husband has to do is to say things like, oh, I know how you feel. This must be very difficult for you. Oh, you poor thing. Don't worry. Tomorrow life will look differently. And I'm there for you. And just some little sweet nothings. That's all she wants to hear, you know? Whereas for men, this often feels like a bit of a silly game or something, because the solution, what's the problem, you know? Also, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you know, on my recent tour around the US, I had a lot of association and interaction with Indian body devotees, because in America, most temples, it's all Indian devotees, you know. And there actually one devotee, one Prabhu pointed this out to me. I was not even aware of this, but he actually made this point that often for Indian men, not so easy to communicate nicely. That Indian men have often a poor communication skills. I didn't know this. He was telling me, you know, and he is Indian himself. So to act as a woman, a mother. Did I say mother and father just now? No, sorry. So the man, obviously, he teaches how to act as a man, a father, and a husband. And the wife teaches how to act as a woman, a mother, and a wife. So, and we learn the communication skills from our parents, and usually we pass that down. So even how our mother and father are solving conflicts, we learn their communication style. And this Prabhu was telling me that in former times, the men were just mainly giving the orders. You know, this should be done, that has to be done. And that was almost it. And maybe it was like that because in former times more women were living together and they had their friendships and exchanges and emotional support systems and all this. And the men were maybe more amongst the men or something. So in any case, he was sharing this with me. And he was saying that in America, when Indian devotees get married, usually the North American Grihastha Vision Team, maybe you have heard of them, they have a website, North American Grihastha Vision Team. Of course, it is a little Americanized, so not everything may sit right with you here in Bangalore. But anyway, they usually recommend any young Indian couple to do a course on communication. Yes. So that both educate themselves and they learn how to communicate nicely, how to listen to the person we are communicating with, how to get our message across without, being condescending and putting down the person or, whatever. So good communication skills are very important for any relationship. For any relationship, not only between husband and wife. Even if we want to learn to serve as a mentor or something, we have to learn how to communicate nicely, And sometimes we devotees, we are a little poor in that, yes. So anyway, I thought I mentioned this at this point, that, yes, communication courses we can take even from non-devotees. That's all right, even if they're not devotees, they can still teach us, they're in many ways ahead of us. So no harm to learn a few skills from non-devotees, just how to communicate. There's this empathic listening, non-violent, probably even in the internet or what, I don't know. So they're very useful tools so that we understand each other nicely and we can, get our message across and yes. So, what is also part of the emotional care is that a husband has to give some quality time to his wife. This often gets neglected because, as we said, for men the main source of satisfaction is his achievements. So that's why he's often, busy doing so many things, especially also if a man has some bigger responsibilities in the temple. I was maid for 10 years. My husband was the temple president. I never even saw him. He made, appointments with everybody else except with me, even though I was running half the temple, So, my God, and then what choice did I have? I had to come with my issues at 9 o'clock at night. That's the only time when I saw him. And then he often got all irritated. Oh, don't disturb me in the night. So we have to give some quality time to our spouse, to our wife. So I usually recommend 1 hour a day. Yes, 1 hour a day, if somehow or other possible, So where the wife knows this is my time with my husband, where we can share thoughts, where we can talk about some plans, or where we can read something together, or, where I can reveal my heart, because, see, we have to understand the family relationships, they set the foundation to our whole spiritual life, right? if there is a strong, harmonious, atmosphere in the home, if there's nice, affectionate, harmonious relationships in the home, so then your mind is peaceful and you can actually concentrate on chanting and hearing and so many different plans and service. But if you are in a war at home, and there's dissatisfactions and quarrels and this and that, then that will affect your whole spiritual life. So even when we construct, here you've constructed a temple, so the foundation is the most important thing. And that determines how high the temple can be, the building. So our family relationships are of great importance to keep them strong and harmonious and loving and affectionate, where both, husband and wife feel fulfilled and the needs are met, and there is a nice loving atmosphere in the home. So we have to give some time to this. We can't just think, family, this is Maya, service. No, this is completely immature, because also how will we expect to have, emotionally balanced children if there is some strange atmosphere in the house and some unusual patterns of communication or some screaming and yelling and arguing? This is very, very detrimental for children to witness when the parents are arguing. Yes, very detrimental, yes. I had the good fortune, my parents were very intelligent. They had good spiritual intelligence, yes. So I had an amazing childhood, and even though they didn't know anything about Krishna consciousness, but they really set the foundation to my whole spiritual development, definitely. So, and for that, both husband and wife have to invest time and energy to build a good relationship. And we mature in that way by actually, being selfless servant towards our family members and really fulfilling their needs and being affectionate and so we mature so much as personalities, so we should not underestimate the importance of this. So in other words, husband can't be just some workaholic, always working. We never see him. He leaves at 7 o'clock in the morning, comes back home at 10 o'clock at night, weekends also working. Imbalanced, and there will be some dissatisfaction on the part of the wife and the children. So usually, as far as possible, I recommend 1 hour a day and at least half a day per week, especially when there's children there. There have to be some family activities, Yes, also children need a bit of fun. We have to go in nature. Even Prabhupada says parks, going in nature, very, very soothing for the mind. Trees take up all the negative energy and they give off healing energy. So we should be in nature, in forests and parks and so on, and do some games and all this with the kids and some picnic or whatever, or inviting other friends to our home who also have kids. And there has to be some time for these things, Otherwise, if we are too narrow and only class and kirtan and seva, for children a little too narrow, We don't want to traumatize them that Krishna consciousness is so narrow and we have to be a class, we have to be chanting and so there has to be some little recreation also, And we can Krishnaize the recreation, that we go to different places, holy places, take the kids to Mayapur, Vrindavan, this, that, and have some time out for the family in a Krishna conscious environment, you know. Very important. So yes, emotional care also means that he takes her out, he accompanies her to some social functions, because usually women feel more secure when the husband is there on their side, if they go to some function, some wedding or whatever it may be, you know. But if he's not interested, oh no, I got no time, you go alone. So then women feel a little uncomfortable very often, you know. Yes. And to take her out shopping and so on, you know. So this is all part of emotional care, you know. Very, very important. Yes. Also, actually, I want to read you one little quote here, which I put in one of my books, where Prabhupada very nicely describes how a husband has to provide, you know. So not only the emotional care is important, but he also has to provide. And providing, not only paying the rent and the food, but also buying nice things. It's actually the duty of the husband. Here in India, people understand this, you know, yes. But in India, there's still, the culture is still there. So Prabhupada says this in New York in 1974. Husband should give all comforts to the wife. She may not be uncomfortable in any way. They want food, clothes, little ornaments. Yes, in so many ways the husband must give to keep the woman satisfied. In India you will find that the poor men, they will get lead bangles, you know, from cheap metal, lead. They cannot provide silver or gold, but bangle must be there. Prabhupada says, bangle must be there. If not lead, then glass. She will be satisfied with good sari, good bangle, good foods, and some children. That's all. Funny how Prabhupada, in a very practical way, you know, he explains what women usually need, you know. So of course, there may be also some borders, you know, some limitations to what a husband can provide, not unlimited saris. You know, I mean, I've met ladies in America, they have 40, 50 saris in their cupboards. I don't know how many saris the women have here in India, but my God, you know, so somewhere there's also some limit to it, you know. So, but ideally, that should all be discussed and determined before we get married, you know. What kind of standard of life the husband can provide for. And the etiquette is that once a woman is married, she cannot demand and complain. She has to be satisfied with whatever he can provide. You know, this is very important that, you know, yesterday we were saying that husband wants to be the hero for the wife. So if a wife is complaining, nagging, oh, we don't have money, I want to go, you know, to Mayapur, well, for you it's not so costly, but for Europeans it's, you know, a long way to fly, or from America. So sometimes, you know, the women are not satisfied. Oh, he's not bringing enough money home. I want to go to this festival and that event and on this parikrama and you know, so then our husband, he will not feel happy and encouraged about this because he's not the hero. He can't make her happy. This is very, it is discouraging for a man if he always feels no matter what he does, it's not good enough. So So that's why the Vaishnava etiquette is that once she is married, she has to be satisfied. But also he has to understand, he has to provide as much as he can, you know. So yesterday we were mentioning, you know, that if a wife serves nicely, then she will conquer the husband's heart, and then he will want to care for her, right? So rather than demanding and expecting and complaining, she should actually serve nicely and conquer his heart, and then he will want to reciprocate. And then she can always give some little hints, you know, what she maybe likes to have or something. But first she has to serve and make herself dear to the husband, and then he will want to please her also. Whereas if a woman is very dominant and always getting on the husband's case, he will not feel inspired to care for her, you know, because then he is afraid, or if I care for her now, then she will become even stronger in her dominance and so on. You know, it's almost like feeding a scorpion. Actually, can somebody extinguish the incense, because I'm allergic. I can feel it in my voice. Just stick it upside down. Yes. Yes. So it's almost like feeding a scorpion. You know, the more you feed a scorpion, the more poisonous he will get. So that's kind of the feeling a husband has. If the wife is very dominant, you know, and she's not humble and submissive, he will not feel inspired to give any kind of emotional care. He will withdraw, you know, and he will just say, you buy your own things, you know. So, but we invite a more loving spirit into our marriage relationship if that loving exchange is there, that the wife serves nicely and the husband reciprocates by providing, buying gifts and jewelry and saris and all that. It's so much more loving and romantic than as if she just goes out, earns her own money, and all right, you buy what you want, right? Not so nice, you know. So that's why, yeah, there is a more loving spirit there if we try and stick more to the traditional, you know, roles, that the husband is the main provider, because that also encourages him. It's interesting, you know, that when a wife depends on the husband, that inspires him to provide. Yes. So, but today, with many women going to work, having their own money, it's actually threatening the marriage unit, you know, because then the wife does not depend on the husband anymore. And men need to feel needed. Women need to feel heard. Men need to feel needed. So if a man feels, well, she doesn't actually need me. She's got a job, she's got an income, she's buying all her stuff, you know, she's got all her things there, her you know, different projects, and so what am I doing here? You know? Yeah, then very easily it threatens the marriage unit. So again, it's Krishna's perfect arrangement that a man feels inspired to be dutiful. Nature, we women are dependent on the protection of a man, especially when there's children there, you know, pregnancy and so we need that protection. So, and that exactly inspires a man to be responsible and dutiful. Plus, it has more that mood of the loving spirit, right? Yes. And also, as Prabhupada mentioned in that quote, "It is a man's duty to give children to the wife, because by nature women want to be mothers as part of the emotional fulfillment." So I mean, here in India it is still more understood that there should be children. In the Western world it is not. Many people say, yes, we get married, but we don't want children. We want to travel and preach. And I usually tell them, hey, that's the wrong ashram. You're talking about the Vanaprastha ashram. You know, that's where we don't have children anymore and we travel and preach. That's the Vanaprastha ashram. But Grihastha ashram, there has to be children there, as a rule. Of course, if a woman cannot get children, that's a different story. But yeah, we cannot think that, oh, children are such a hindrance and a burden, and let's try not to have children. Let's bypass the austerity of bringing up children and just not have any. You know? But how are we going to purify our sex desire? You know? Usually when men and women live together, there's sex life. The outcome is children. So we purify our desires by using them in Krishna's service. So to have children, that's how we purify that sex desire, by taking responsibility for the outcome of it and bringing up Krishna conscious children. And there is still so much immaturity in our ISKCON society that people think children are a burden and an obstacle in devotional life. But actually it's the opposite. If we do things properly, if we perform Garbhadan Samskara, we invite a special soul to take birth in our family. And I mean, Garbhadan Samskara is a whole big different topic. But it's not just chanting 50 rounds on the day. No, there can be a whole preparation before, and we can meditate and have a prayerful mood and purify our mind and the body and. So it's a whole thing, you know. I mean, it says the demigods are queuing up to take birth in Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement. But they don't want to just take birth in any family. They want to take birth in a Paka Krishna conscious family. So they're lining up there, but we are not inviting them. You know? Yes. So, yes. And if we take this topic of children seriously, it puts a whole different dimension on the Grihastha ashram. Yes. Especially also for us women. We women are the first guru to the child. You know, the first few years, until at least a child is 5 or 6 and starts with schooling, it needs the mother completely. I always beg the women to give up working while their children are under 5 years of age. Yes, because the mother plays such an important role, you know. She's meant to teach the child in a Krishna conscious way. She can create Goloka Vrindavan there every day at home. So if a woman thinks it's boring to be a mother, she has no clue what it means to be a mother. No clue. No clue. Conscious activities with the children. See, I had that good fortune. My mother never worked, only after we left home when I was 19 and went out studying. So then she went back to her professional world, you know. My parents were very educated people, but she gave all her time and energy to us kids, you know. She was actually a pretty good artist. She made quite amazing artwork and did exhibitions and so many things. And then later she became art therapist, and she, you know, did art therapy with people and so on. You know, but while we were kids, she engaged us in so many creative and wonderful ways, you know, yes. Every evening she read a story to us and you know, so, I mean, there's so many nice activities for a mother to do. It's a matter of actually developing a higher taste. If we have a higher taste, then going to work becomes boring. There's so many more exciting things to do. Yes, yes. And being active at the temple, taking the kids to the temple, engaging them, and yeah, so many nice things. So, children puts a whole different dimension on our family life, and we have to shape up. We have to be exemplary. The children learn by example, by imitating. So I've seen how people have changed when they actually have children. They realize, so now life is getting serious. The kids are watching what we're doing, and they can see whether we are just talking or whether we are actually naturally living Krishna consciousness. So we should not think that children are a disturbance, an obstacle. Even though, yes, of course, the mother, for some time, she cannot do so much service, but that's all right. She's doing the highest service of bringing up a child and giving the child the best chance to get to know Krishna consciousness. Already in the womb, the child hears everything. I actually met once a couple from South India, more south than we are. And they were sharing that during her pregnancy, she was chanting every day the first 5 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, loudly, just the Sanskrit, every day, for 9 months. So, and when I met them, the child was 5. And whenever the parents were chanting these 5 chapters and would stop anywhere, he would know the next verse without any further training, just by hearing in the womb. Wow, this is amazing, isn't it? I was blown out when I heard this. I was so amazed. Of course, we all know Prahlad Maharaj, he heard in the womb, and of course Prahlad Maharaj would, of course, why not, But I didn't think that this was still going on today. Yes. And I mean, even non-devotees, they made these experiments that children, when they hear certain music in the womb, they react differently to that kind of music when they hear that music after they took birth. So even the non-devotee scientists realize, yes, the child hears in the womb. Child gets the mother's consciousness completely. So, I mean, this is what we have to train our ladies in, so that we bring an empowered generation of really strong devotees into this world, So, and that's what Grihastha life is all about, yes. So it's the duty of the husband to actually give the wife children, I have come across examples in the West where the husband says, yes, okay, I marry you, but on the condition that we don't have children. And this is nonsense, complete nonsense. And sometimes the woman agrees because she's so attached, she wants to marry the person, and then later on they realize, or she realizes that, this is really, it puts everything out, and often the women suffer under it, if they can't, use their motherly nature and their emotional nature to bring up children, Okay, so maybe I'll stop here and see if we have any questions. Any questions? Come on, there must be some questions. Yes.
Normally we do not have senses. Suppose our senses like hearing, seeing, so they are not perfect. So sometimes what happens, like, we lack in hearing. from the other party. So the other party may think that he's not listening. So that way, so how to go about this? Because everyone has some defects in senses, some hearing, some remembering, not
Yes,
correct.
yes. I mean, it's a fact there is no objective hearing experience. Everybody hears something different, Yes. According to their mindset, their attachments, their desires, false ego. False ego sets a big filter there, in the whole hearing process. So even here, all of you sitting here, everybody hears something different. And sometimes we find after classes people say, oh, you said this and this and this, and we didn't even talk about that. Where is that coming from? So people hear something completely different. So this is, that's a fact, But what to say? That's why, this Prabhu in America told me that, especially the men in India, they should do some communication course. So, well, I mean, see, it all starts by understanding the importance that women need to be heard. And we have to make some time for this. And even though it may be a sacrifice for a man to sit down and hear her and give this emotional support, So we have to give our undivided attention, not being on the computer, go on, I hear you, or something, but really give her the full attention, I mean, even in mentorship, it's also like that. We had one session where we went through the qualifications. A person has to have to be a good mentor. So one of them was to be a good listener and communicator and hear people out, And you can't just always look at the watch when your mentee comes and wants to open their heart and you're always looking at the watch. So obviously you give the message out, I actually don't have time for you, So a similar thing is with the wife too. If we always look at the watch, if she's just wanting to share something, or the phone rings, oh sorry, I have to answer this, and this doesn't set a trusting and confidential atmosphere, So and once we understand how important it is for a woman to be heard, and if we want to care for her and develop a loving relationship, and if we understand the wife is our better half, she is our power of inspiration, hopefully. Yes, she is the source of auspicious energy and inspiration for a man. So once we understand that, then, the man better make sure their source of energy and inspiration is healthy and strong and satisfied. Otherwise, you're not going to have your source of inspiration and empowerment. Right? Yes. I mean, for a man, it is important that the wife is happy and satisfied. That will empower him. Then he can be so much more effective in his material achievements and his spiritual achievements. As we said, a woman can bring the very best out of a man, spiritually or materially. Bring him to his highest level of performance. So, understanding that, we would also want to care for our source of inspiration there, Yes. So we have to be personal. See, bhakti is all about being personal. And we have to start within our family. If we can't even get it together to be personal there, You know, we have the saying, charity starts at home, you know. So, yeah. And we have to remember our wife, our children, they're also Vaishnavas, you know. And we are serving the Vaishnavas there. Yes. And it is powerful preaching to set a good example of a healthy, balanced, emotionally strong family, you know. Yes. Yes. But of course also the women have to, you know, as we said yesterday, they shouldn't speak harsh and insulting words, because then of course a man doesn't want to hear and listen. You know, he's afraid, okay, what's next? Probably there's some attack coming and all this. So then he just hides in his room and shuts the door, you know, and he doesn't want to listen, you know. Yes. Okay. Some questions from the ladies' side. Two mics. So, okay, come.
Mataji, I want to ask, if husband knows all this and still he doesn't want to do, so how we, after knowing this, should not create expectations and still have to work on serving him and inspire him?
Well, I mean, see, any marriage imbalance can be worked out when there's the mentor there. You know? If both husband and wife are willing to accept the mentor and work on themselves, then anything can be improved. You know? But then sometimes also for men, it's a tough thing to be willing to accept a mentor and accept corrections and guidance. Their men often don't do so well either, you know. For us women, it's more easy to accept guidance and accept a mentor because we digest things by talking about them, you know. So for us women, it's much more easy to approach a mentor or counselor with some marriage issues. But for men, there's again the false ego in the way, and they don't digest things by talking about them, but by going in their cave and being quiet and thinking about it. So, and then often, you know, men find it hard to open their hearts and ask for guidance, you know. So, I mean, you know, what to do if this is not there, he doesn't accept guidance, and, you know, then we just have to see it as Krishna's arrangement to cultivate tolerance and just somehow work more on trying to conquer his heart through our nice service. So, and it may take a few years, you know. Or maybe also we are not so good at conquering his heart. I mean, as a rule we can say, and that's why family life is so purifying, that actually the spouse acts like a mirror and reflects our activities, our mood, you know? So we may not even notice how we behave, but you know, the spouse is like the mirror. So we ideally, in any kind of relationship problems, we should ask ourselves, what am I doing wrong that the other person reacts like this? You know? Because we can only change ourselves. We